Hi there, in today's video we're going to be talking about website images, how to optimize them and then upload them to your site, and why the heck you would even want to think about optimizing them in the first place. My name is Yasmin Robles and I am the owner of Robles Designs, where we create drill-worthy websites for entrepreneurs hellbent on taking over the world. We do this not just by creating pretty websites, but we lay out a great foundation for your website and just make sure that you know all the bells and whistles and have the proper foundation to get from point A to point B and beyond. If you want a free download, make sure to check out roblesdesigns.com/checklist. I will link it down somewhere in the description. Make sure to download that PDF and then you can use it as a checklist to really go through your website and see if you do have the appropriate foundation set up, or if you're currently creating your website, then you know for sure that you have everything that you need, or can at least use it as a little checklist to make sure that everything is being set up as needed. So now let's dive into today's topic. Alright, so why exactly do you even want to think about optimizing your images? Why can't you just take the images you found on something like Pexels or the images that your photographer gave you and just upload them to your website? It has to do with three things. It's website speed, SEO, and user friendliness. And SEO and user friendliness comes back to the website speed. Very large images will tend to slow down your website load, and imagine going as a user and loading the website, and then you just sit there as this web page just loads, everything is loading really slowly. And sometimes it just has to do with your images. So user friendliness, it just means that nobody's gonna sit there and wait 10 seconds for an image to load. You also want to make sure there's no text on the images, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in the video as well. And for SEO purposes, Google bots, Bing bots, anybody who is managing analytics, they know that a fast website will be more user-friendly. People will actually want to see that search result, and it just makes for a better ecosystem on the internet. So that is why it is perfect for SEO as well, especially if you think about alt text, which we again will get into a little bit later in the video. So why do you want to optimize images? You want to optimize it to create a really good user experience for the people visiting your website, to make sure that you at least have the foundations for your SEO, which means search engine optimization, meaning you get to be found number one on top of the search results for a keyword. And just, it all comes back to site speed and load speed. So let's get into the how of website optimization, and then towards the end, I will mention some tools that I use to really help the process go a lot faster. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but hopefully those help as well. So the very first thing that you should keep in mind is the image size. There are two forms of thinking that you could wrap your mind around. It is the size as in dimensions. So for example, a tabletop could be 7 foot by 3 foot. That is like the actual cutout of the table, right? But then there's also the weight. So the tabletop could weigh a certain amount. For the image weight, I typically try to keep them at 70 kilobytes to about 200. I tend to export out images and use some tools to help get that weight down. And again, I will talk about those later in the video. Then for the dimensions, I keep in mind where am I actually going to be placing these images. So if it is a background image, for example, it is full width background, edge to edge of the browser screen, and typically there might be something over the image like text. Those are background images. So whether it is a graphic with pattern or whether it is a JPEG of your space or your team, that means that image, typically I will upload it between 1800 to 2000 pixels wide. If it's not a background image, it's probably going to be something like a headshot or a team shot. If you are putting these on your page, let's say for example you have a 2-column layout, some text on one side and a photo of your team on the other side, think about the size that photo is really needed in, and then import or drag that into your website. So for example, on that second column, it could be that you only need something that's about 800 pixels wide. So typically I'll say, okay, well, you know what? Let's reduce the size down to 1,000 pixels. We'll run it through my optimizer, and then I will upload it onto the website. So now I know that, for example, the site is not loading a 4,000 pixel wide image and then having to work extra hard, reducing the size down and loading it appropriately. It's saying, oh, it's only 1,000 pixels, let's just reduce it down to whatever size it needs. And especially for mobile, for example, it'll reduce it down for maybe you want to think about it about 350 pixels wide. And it will reduce it down, and that way there's no big wait or lag for this gigantic image to load, this gigantic heavy image to load, and then having to resize it down. Now there are some images that are even smaller, so decorative elements such as like a GIF or let's say a very small PNG file, which we'll go over the file types, but the PNG file of a little decorative element from your logo that might be floating in a certain location on your web page, you might only need to upload that at about 200 pixels wide. So there's no point in uploading a gigantic image or graphic when it's only needed at this size because it's only a design element. So keep that in mind when you're uploading the images to your site. Now there are some CMS or platforms out there that will help you just lighten the load of these images, such as Squarespace. I know some clients who upload gigantic images on there even though I've told them not to. They've uploaded some images, but their tools will help a little bit into really alleviating the issues. I still always recommend optimizing the images before you even load them onto the site. The next thing you want to optimize is the file name. Even I tend to forget this sometimes, but it's really cool to have file names that have key phrases in there. It helps with searching, it helps with some certain screen readers, certain support systems for people with accessibility issues. And so just renaming your image to whatever is on the image is a great way to go. So for example, if it is an image of Thomas Jefferson, then the image would be thomasjefferson.jpg. Keep in mind that most image file names will need to have dashes and usually undercase, so no uppercase or anything like that. Usually, for example, Thomas Jefferson, all lowercase with the space between Thomas and Jefferson as a dash, .jpg if it is a JPEG file. That is just a great way of naming the images, not just for you to be able to understand what they are, but for screen readers and again, helping with those accessibility issues. The reason I say screen readers is because some people have visual impairments, and so you want to be able to think of them as well. They are customers, clients that you don't want to miss out on. And what will happen is if you were to get, for example, an image from a stock photo page, or let's say you got a branded photo shoot and your photographer, when you downloaded the images, they're all just named img123.jpg. Then when you upload it, that's exactly what that file name will appear as, and you've kind of lost, although it's not out of everything in the huge ecosystem of the internet, it's not a huge loss. I would still say get into the systems of renaming your files before you upload them. Once you already have uploaded your images, you'll want to make sure that they all have alternative text applied to them. Alternative text or alt text is basically, you can think of it as hidden text behind an image that is read to somebody with a screen reader that bots will come in and read through, and it's a description of the image, very similar to the file name. So for example, if I named, let's say it's my headshot, Yasmin Robles, owner of Robles Designs in Columbus, Ohio. If that is my file name, probably that's going to be the alt text on my image as well. Decorative graphics or images don't necessarily need that. I usually leave them blank because there's no need to describe like swirl or little swirl of a plant or something. There's no need for that. So I focus on the images that are important. Even if they are a background image, I try to make sure that there's alt text. I try to ensure that there is alt text for all of the other images or graphics that are being uploaded. If you have an SVG file, you can also add a snippet of it in there, and SVG is a type of file that you would upload, and we'll get into that in a bit. But essentially, alt text is hidden text that really helps with your SEO. You can put keywords in there, but you can also help the people with accessibility issues read through with a screen reader and see what the image was all about. And if the image is a broken link, for example, let's say you accidentally deleted the image for some reason, but it's still on one of the pages on your website, then it'll be a broken link image, but you can still tell what it was about because of the alt text. It'll appear there, or title text. So make sure that you are putting alternative text onto your images. It just helps so much with, not just with SEO, but with people using screen readers, and it just helps the whole, your website empire. Okay, so let's chat about file types. I mentioned a few earlier, so I mentioned JPEG, PNG, SVGs. There's also GIFs or GIFs, however you want to pronounce them. But basically, these are the different files that you can upload as images onto your website. JPEGs are typically reserved for more, I would say, photographs. So if you got a brand photo shoot, they're likely going to be in JPEG format. If you download something from like pexels.com or Unsplash, it'll probably be a JPEG. And so these, you can think of them as photographs. And JPEGs are great because it has, versus PNG files, it has, how do I put this? The easiest way, the layman terms, it has more colors available. So if you think of a color palette, JPEGs have more colors available versus PNGs and GIFs. They start to reduce down the number of colors available in that color palette. A PNG file, I still sometimes upload them as for photographs. I usually don't see any issues with the quality. But PNGs are perfect for graphics, especially if you have, for example, a logo that needs a transparent background so it doesn't have that white box around the logo when exported out. That is a great file because it'll have a transparent background. You will also, for example, decorative elements, you can export out certain things from, even if you're using Canva or anything like that, with a transparent background as a PNG, and then you can put it on your site and it can be floating there over a headshot. It can do a lot of cool things because of that transparent background capability. The next one is a GIF or GIF. These are usually animations or memes or whatever you want to call them, but you can upload these to your site. Now, I will say that these tend to look blurry, especially if you took something that's a video and you're trying to put it on your site. It'll typically look blurry because it is, again, limited in the number of colors, but they do add a little bit of flair to the site. The last one I'm going to cover is an SVG file, and this one is something that, for example, logos can be utilized as this, decorative elements can be utilized as this, and essentially what that is, for example, let's say I created a logo for you on Illustrator, I export out part of the icon as an SVG file, and now it's in my world, it's a little snippet of code that I can then put onto the site, and maybe it can live in the corner of your page, just coded that way in the corner of your page as you scroll. You can also do some other cool graphics. There's before in other websites I've done a wave pattern, created the wave pattern in Illustrator, exported that out, grabbed the SVG information, and then coded it onto the site. The other thing that I have done is create for WordPress platform, I created an SVG, basically like a circle, like an organic circle for another client, and I uploaded it onto their site, and now whenever they upload an image, they can just select which of those SVG files they would like to use as a mask. So now the images don't have to be all square, they can just choose between one of the organic circles, and then it's great because everything is well branded. So SVG files are really cool. It works for large images, so it's great because It can be made, it can just work responsively. It will be responsive with your website as you go from mobile to tablet and to desktop, and even a large desktop. So that wave pattern that I mentioned can be extended between all the way from desktop to mobile, and it'll look great. This is a great way to create graphics for your site that won't bog down the size or the weight of your site, but also will look really snazzy and sharp and clean. The final optimization tip that I am going to recommend before we dive into tools is that you do not put text on images. The only time that you can put text on an image is if, for example, you export out your logo, then obviously there's going to be your business name, your text with the icon, right? Other than that, there really shouldn't be any text on images because bots can't read it, screen readers can't read it, nothing can really, if the image doesn't show up, it's all gone, all that information. I am seeing this a lot with people who, for example, if they host events and all they will do is upload an image of a flyer that literally is supposed to be a printed flyer that they created, and now they've just uploaded it onto that page, and that's the only thing on the page. And so if I'm a bot, I'm coming to this page, I don't see an image. There might be alt text, but that's it. I don't see all of the information of what is on that image. I don't know when this party's, where, when, nothing. I have no idea what is going on. And so to me as a bot, it would look like a page that was created without any text, and I would probably downgrade you for it because there's not enough text on here. What's the point of this page? For a screen reader, you're missing out on a client or a customer that could be looking at this, but they cannot easily read it, or they're on a slow internet and the image won't load. And so how are you going to convey that event information or any other information to them? Okay, so let's dive into the tools that you can utilize. The first one is one of my favorites. It's Image Optim. I am a Mac user, so I think that there might be on their website alternatives to their Mac version, but it's free and I really like it because all it is clicking, selecting what I want, dragging it over, and then just waiting for them to optimize it. If you are looking to edit your dimensions and are a Mac user, I'm assuming that other computers have some kind of image manipulator as well, just installed into it. But Mac has Preview, and I open this when I don't want to bother opening up Photoshop or anything else. And what I do is I open up the image, I check under tools, adjustments, I check the size of the image, so you know, how wide is the image, and I typically, if it's a background image, like I mentioned before, I'll change it to somewhere between 1800 to 2000 pixels wide. I'll save it, and then I'll run it through Image Optim. The next one, and I actually have the paid version, but there is a free version, so I'm not entirely sure which of the tools that are available are really available for free or for the paid version, but I use Canva, and clients really love Canva, especially if they don't want to mess around with having to resize, crop, or anything with their images. The way we typically work with it and provide the template to the client is that we will, for example, if we know that you'll be switching background images all the time, we create just a 2000 by 1200 pixel file in Canva, and then you can, as a client, whenever it's time for you to update the background image or anything like that, you'll drop in your images and just make sure that they fit appropriately where you want the focal point to be, and you will export them out. And so now they are probably going to be cropped because not all images that you download will be that exact size, and they will be optimized somewhat for you to put onto your website, at least more so than if you had just downloaded them straight from whatever stock image place you got them from. These last two I have not used. I'm more of an Adobe user. I have the Adobe Creative Suite, but these last two might work if you are not a Mac user. I have clients who've used these and who love it. So the first one is free. It's Photoshop Express. I believe it's free. My client uses it. I think you can only use it on a phone and tablet though, but for her business, that's usually really all she does is on her phone or her tablet. So she will take images and then try to edit them as much as she can on her phone and or on Photoshop Express, and just edit it on her phone and then upload it to her website, and it works pretty well for her. And then PicMonkey is another one that I have heard really good things about, and I think it's kind of similar to Photoshop Express. I think it's similar to Canva, except I think Canva might be a little bit more powerful than PicMonkey, but you can play around with those and see which one you like best. That is it for today. Make sure your images are optimized. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or reach out to me on my website, roblesdesigns.com. I'm always happy to help. Leave any questions you have, or you can email me, or just message me. I cannot talk today. Just message me and I will get back to you. You can find me on Instagram at Robles Design Studio, where I try to make a fool of myself on Reels just for your viewing pleasure. So you can go there, and then I also will leave a link to the podcast episode that is somewhat based on this topic as well. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, let me know what you think, and if there are any questions, leave them in the comments. I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.